All right, we are in our last video for ecology. We're going to talk about population growth. As you can see here, here's an ICANN statement. Some of this ICANN statement refers back to one of our last videos. So, how does populations grow really within an ecosystem? Think about that. Well, the population of one organism depends on the population of another, right? That leads to coevolution of the two organisms. So, this is talking about an irregular ecosystem. So, for instance, pandas depend on the population of bamboo because pandas obviously eat bamboo and that is their favorite meal. And so, when they eat this bamboo, it allows them to live longer because the more bamboo it has, the more they can reproduce to have kids to eat the bamboo too. But predators evolve more efficient ways of capturing and consuming prey. The prey evolve ways to escape predation. So, over time, the idea is for who's ever being the prey, they learn how to change to protect themselves so they will not die or become extinct. Okay? So let's talk about the population. Immigration with an I says we move in. So I says into. Okay? So immigration means a movement of individuals into an area. All right? Immigration, E, exit, moving the individuals out of an area. So this little, they was like, you know what? I want to move. So they immigrated. Okay. That's why they called immigrants because they came in. But when they decide to leave, they call immigrated. So birth rate versus death rate. Now, my last video we talked about it, especially with the predator and prey relationships. But the population growth may slow down when the death rate increases. So the more deaths that we have, um, the population is going to kind of stand still for a moment. But the birth rate decreases when both events occur at the same time. Okay, so if it occurs at the same time, you realize it. So look here, as the death rate kind of went down, the birth rate went down too. It's not as fast as the death rate, but it did go down. This is because of limited resources such as food, water, and territory, climate changes, and diseases. Like if you don't have enough food, are you gonna live? If you don't have enough water, are you gonna live? Nah. Territory. If you don't, if we had one person and you stayed in a closet and you had to add five more people to that closet, somebody's gonna die because they can't take the pressure. Someone's gonna eat more, the waste, and all those things. Diseases, climate changes. So look at this. I just really want you to actually pause the video and I really want you to see the estimations that they made. This was a few years ago. And I made this probably like 2014, 2015. So these numbers was from there, give or take. So let's look at something that is a time that is really clear. Right here, 2022. Okay. That's in 2 years from now, right? They're basically saying we're going to use most of our chromium, which is made for some of our drugs, fire retardants, and batteries. But let's go to something that's right now. Certain drugs we can't get anymore. That's why they kept making new medicines. Batteries, certain batteries we can't have, and fire retardants. So right now they're saying that hey, some of that's getting ready to come to a waste now. Now this is just the estimate that was given. Now let's look at right here. Rechargeable batteries. What do we all have? Rechargeable batteries, right? For your phone, for laptops, for TVs and stuff. They're trying to say that should be almost out in 2035. But let's look at something that's even crazier. Titanium. That's how we make planes. 2057. What about gas? They thinking about by 2049 they may not need enough gas. Let's add that to your life. 29 years. Let's say 30 years from now. Most of y'all in 30 years is going to be about what, 46? Y'all gonna be between 46 and like 50. By the time you're 50, there's no more gas, and some people are like, I lived a good life by then. But you gotta think about it. That's like really, really closer than what you think. Walking around saying we don't may not have no gas. Like look at closer years, like food cans, bullets, 2025, car batteries. Well, car batteries might be out by 2025, and you got gas right here in 2049. What we gonna need the gas for? Might be able to hold on to the gas if the batteries go out in the car. And 2025 is in 5 years. Just something to think about. All right, so we need to understand the difference between some of the dependent factors. So we talked about some before, and we talked about like primary and secondary succession. So now we're going to talk about density dependent factors. So this one is going to be dependent on the population size. So this is a number of organisms in an area. Usually affects in dense populations, large dense. So this right here, density dependent, it usually affects large dense populations. So let me give you an example. Competition. You're going to do what? Compete over food, water, space, sunlight. So we have a lot of people in one small area. You're going to have competition. It's like literally, if y'all was the last people on earth, and this is say y'all was actually sitting in my classroom. So let's say there's 30 of y'all sitting in the classroom, and I only had 2 hamburgers. Somebody's going to try to fight me for that hamburger because that was the last 2 hamburgers on earth, and there's 30 people who got to live. Predation, predator and prey relationships, parasites, diseases. This is density dependent. Can we really stop the spread of some diseases? We can't stop every disease. We can try to cure some, but we can't stop things from being transferred. Parasites, we can't kill every parasite. We can't stop predation. We can't go out there and say, now look, little fox, that little rabbit need to live, and you can't eat that rabbit. We can't do that. That don't even make sense. So here's different diseases that come through. One big disease is AIDS, which is a viral infection that helps destroy helper T cells. This decreases the immune system and it spreads through bodily fluids. Yes, people like bodily fluids. Well, yes, any type of bodily fluid. Possibly you can transmit HIV and AIDS. So don't try to be fast, going around trying to kiss everybody, trying to do everybody, because these things really are transferred through bodily fluids. So the thing is with AIDS kind of reminds you, if you think about leukemia has their cells that cannot reproduce the white blood cells, and it doesn't fight off infections and stuff, right? It makes the immune system real weak. Well, AIDS and leukemia are totally different because leukemia cannot be transferred. But what happens is the immune system is weak. So people don't really die because of AIDS. They die because they got sick by something that their body could not fight off. Okay? Because again, their helper T cells, they ain't there to help no more. Flu. Flu is a viral infection that causes fatigue, body aches, and spreads through contacts. So when the virus enters, right here, it goes inside your body and it begins to attack. So this is very similar to, yes, COVID. One of our biggest things back in 2013 was H7N9 virus that happened in China. See, everything was happening in China. But it happens with animals, and it's a genetic evolution. Not to say it didn't happen here, because you got to think about it. We have a lot of stuff here too that people don't have. We're the only country that's really dying of cancer and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff to look at. But COVID-19 actually can come in and does the same thing. That's why it's important to wear your mask. Your mask covers this area, right? But if that virus gets inside of there, it does attach to your things. We already told you it messes up your mitochondria and stuff. So it's not that you really die of COVID. You die to the symptoms of COVID because your body cannot fight off of another sickness. So if you got COVID, you might have a flu type, but your immune system is super weak. That causes that if you get in contact with anything else, even as simple as a cold with COVID, you can die. Now, the thing is, don't just think that and the animals and stuff can get diseases. Plants can too. The trees actually happen. This happened in North Carolina. The Dutch elm disease. This is a fungus that grew and began to choke the doggone neck and water supply on these trees, and that's the xylem, right? So it began to basically choke it. It blocked it. So now the tree dies and it spreads through the roots and to the beetles. So now guess what? They died. And then these little beetles who do survive go to another tree and do what? Spread their little disease, right? But see, they go inside the tree to lay eggs, but then they can't do it. As you see here, it's bad. So trees can get diseases too. Tuberculosis. So we also call this TB. So this is a thing. This is an infectious disease caused bacteria, infection in the lungs, fever loss, and spreads through the air. Now, if you notice, we don't really have TB like it. Every so often you have people have it, but our biggest ones, yes, is overseas. You're like, man, back over here, and we have China, we have this, and parts of Africa. But you also got to think about what they have. There's all this over here is a big keyword. And you know what? United States and what they try to be, we send all of these things over here. So we said, well, let's build up over here with these factories. So technically they tried to save us, but then we try to make the best of the crops that we have here, and we do other scientific experiments, and we still end up dying earlier than people over here. Pfiesteria. Now Pfiesteria happened again. This happened in North Carolina, right here at the coast. This was when aquatic organisms produce the chemical toxins that just injure or kill fish. Look at this. Can you imagine getting the fish and looking like that? So what happens is it goes the pores. One fish has it, he dies, and that pores goes to another one. It just spreads all in the water. So now we talked about density dependent, and now we're going to talk about density independent. Now again, not dependent again of the populations regardless of size. So this one is going to be unusual weather, natural disasters, seasonal cycles, and human activities by cutting down trees and stuff. So species growth, we should know it that it grows exponentially. As long as you have the unlimited amount of times, we will grow at a fast rate. Now, we grow exponentially at a constant rate though. As you see here, this is very constant. If we have plenty of food, you're going to live. If you got enough water, you're going to live. If you got enough land, you're going to live. If you got enough mates, you're going to live. Limited climate changes. So species growth with logistics. So what happens is the logistics growth, we can get a cap, and it's going to become a carrying capacity. So this is where resources are less available and we have reached a dynamic equilibrium. This is going to call it S curve on a map. So if you ever go in the elevator, it says you can only have up to 100 pounds, right? Or maybe not 100 pounds, say 1,000 pounds. 1,000 pounds, okay? If you have 4 people on there who are adult-sized people, most of them weigh 125 pounds. Once you do this, you have now reached, what is it, 500? So let's just say you had two people to come in and they weigh 300 pounds, and that's 600. So now you're talking about 1,100 pounds. That elevator said the max is 1,000. Can 100 pounds change it? Yes, you can actually change the magnetic force, and then the elevator can fall or collapse or will not move. So the same thing here. The carrying capacity is just what the thing can have. If my classroom can only have 20 kids, I can't have 50 kids sitting in my classroom. Like, we're gonna be uncomfortable, bothered, hot, and annoyed. We're gonna be really upset. Okay. So we do have factors that impact North Carolina ecosystems. So we have acid rains that affects the mountains. Okay, we live over here right at the eastern, almost Piedmont area. That's where Hoke is. Okay, right beside Moore, and you know, then we have beach erosions that obviously take place here. So the mountains you want to go, this is your mountain area. Urban development in the Piedmont, right here, leads to habitat destruction and water runoff, waste lagoons and hog farms, and we know that's on this side of town because I'm from Sampson County, and there's a lot of hog farms over there, okay? And kudzu is an invasive plant that somehow got here. Uh, So let's just review. What does this graph show right here? That shows exponential growth, right? What does the horizontal of this line do? So this horizontal line means, hey, we reached a cap, and our cap is called a carrying capacity. So what are density dependent? Factors that can limit species growth. And remember, we talked about that, of what those could be, like diseases, competition, predation, parasites, disease, and then of course this viral diseases that can limit growth. And we talked about some: TB, Dutch elm disease, AIDS. But that's it. That's the last of our ecology.